Tene tatari tombo chi namba kangala ngadu dele shuyen la tene ti jiso cherdo chi namba ta tanda tombe chue la mupa jachimbo nang ne kapndar pepa la pe gatsur chimbu go ne tuji che hyujutang ti nang ne miksal to ta tanda 늘 페파 놈 팔치를 다 처제 친분형네 남긴다 제 조파 친분형네 남긴다 니 되네 다 대견도 순박은 온도시에나 다 단다 향바가 주게 되네 단다 처제 친부 가우말라서 봐 되네 냠네 남긴 다조 페요레 삼바타버레라 다데 나랑 그 섬시시에나 대 인도 때라 된소라 가리 거기 요아리세나 되네 다 단다 오마겐동 베타와테 베 셔제 침보거나요 오마겐동 베타와테 갈치와예 바제다 조바 침보거나요 오마겐동 베타와테 갈치보예 바제다 대견도 케도 충분한 줄네 집이 형바까지 그 주념네 남게 있나요 오마겐동 베타와테 베 또바테 갈치와 다 이래라 tene perna ngaranso sasa yendo jelan na tene motanala saptate motag sola jugni ndogo yorela tela tene tagi sine ndogo yorela pete yendo tanda ngaranso ge tene gomja nyolin na kapso tene kana lebindo kande yungudo tene ti tsawa tawi yete kande yungundo zegobate oma yendong batawate tene kalchewa imbe cherna tari tene tanda kunjin tobe rechunge den janso hyuju chungate ngarang la kalwa zampo chongla ti chenambal chenambe chong te tarto kalchewa naruchi hyogi.
First of all, I'd like to wish everyone good morning. And I see that you all have come here to this teaching, this Dharma teaching, out of a great, vast amount of faith in the Dharma. And so I'm really pleased with this, and I'd like to thank you all very much for that. And I also see that among all of you who are here, that some of you are people who practice Mahamudra. Others are people who practice the Dzogchen, or Great Perfection. And then other people here practice the Gauma Mahamudra from the Shangpa Kagyu tradition. And so primarily I think that that's the type of people who have mainly come here. And so that's what it seems to me. Well, so what is it that we need when we do all this type of practice? What do we need? We need this view of the Shentong. It is very important when we do the practice of Mahamudra that we have the Shentong view. It is very important when we practice the Dzogchen that we also have the Shentong view. And also when we practice the Gauma Mahamudra that comes from the great Chumpa Neljord in the Shangpa Kagyu tradition, it is also very important that we realize the Shentong view. And so, like, there's an example of this. If we're going to go in a car someplace else, and if we want to go to this place, when we get in the car, we put the map to the side. And then as we go, we occasionally look at the map and see where we're going. And if we do that, then we'll get to where we need to go. It's important to do that. And similarly, when we are practicing meditation and doing our various practices, we need to know where is it we're going. How is it we're going to get there? What is the basis? What is the ground that we are meditating upon? And so that is why the Shentong view is so very important for a meditation practice. And so for that reason, I think that it is a very great fortune for me to be able to come here and to teach you this Mountain Dharma, the Ocean of Certainty by Dolpopa Shedab Gyaltsen. And I also hope that you all consider this to be really important.
Tene ta tejendo jerdo tingsong kapso sanji jitem batar tene ta tarwala tene jerdo sanji jitem batarwa te nani misal to songo doji te pichu tarwa te nani misal to tuji onki tene pal tuji kolo wangchi kasakal nange yore la pal tuichin kholu go onchi tene tanda changka tali lame ke pal tuichin kholu onchi na ro gading de lo de yendo kajibe tene pal tuichin kholu onchi de yendo hanjur Nyingma pal tuichin kholu go onchi de yendo jono be pal tuichin kholu go onchi ta tende mambo nangi wara la tene de la onshwa la pegre tene te pebdu de la pal tuichin kholu ge zawe ge tawe yete kanderesena uma yenton pe tawala tene pal tuichin kholu ge nyamle nang tene wang shuju chunga te pe kalwa sangbo tene pal tuichin kholu te ta tingsang ke tu la bape ke sabchu cheparatam papa tene ti ge wang shuju chunga ta wang shuju chunga kashi la wang shuba zamje tene kalwa sangbo chunga che ta kashi la wang shu ne tene wang shuwa zamde mazi nyamle nangwe ke kalwa sangbo chunga ta tende yore la tene tenzo pe kalwa sangbo re kalwa sangbo yinpa la tene tawe ge yete kandi gugre se na tene oma yentong pe tawa te hi oma yentong pe tawe tai ne pal tuichin kholu ge wang shuwa tang nyamle nangwa la sopa na tene te pe Kalachakra yinpa cherna tene tari tanda ngaranzo tene oma yentong pe tawa tempe ge tenchu ta cheparchi mangpo ye pe nang ne tanda Dolpopa hira jansing ge rishu nge dan janso tene se ne labjong nang wa zamda yung mazi ta tingsang ge kapsala inji kei tendo ngar jur sinpa mangpa na jurwarin jurwa ta tende mangpo ye pa tenso pe kalwa sambo jurwarin jurwa jurgiri maungpa la jurgiri sikdo ka yang yendo saba chay tupting jimpa ke tsopa ke jurgiri sikdo mang Nyingma chay jur tsarwa
Nyingma chay de maungpa la jur
maungpa la jurwan juwa
And so nowadays, the teachings of the Buddha have spread. And of course, the general teachings of the Buddha have spread, but in particular, the teachings of the secret mantra Vajrayana have spread. And in the spread of the secret mantra Vajrayana, what seems to be really appropriate for our times these days, what's happening a lot is there are a lot of Kalachakra empowerments that are happening. Everywhere you go, there are these Kalachakra empowerments. The Dalai Lama has given many Kalachakra empowerments from the tradition of the Ganden or Gelugpa tradition. There are also many there are also many Kagye masters who are giving the Kalachakra empowerment. Likewise, you can get the Nyingma Kalachakra empowerment or the Jonang Kalachakra empowerment. There are all these empowerments of the Kalachakra empowerment that we can go and receive. And so a lot of people have gone to do them. And so what is really the root, the essential view of the Kalachakra empowerment? It is this Shentong middle way teaching. It is on the basis of the Shentong middle way teaching that we can do the practice of the Kalachakra. And so we are all very fortunate to be able to occasionally go and receive the empowerment of Kalachakra. And so it seems like now it's what is really important for these times. It is the profound Dharma, the exceptional profound Dharma that seems to be most appropriate or the most right one for our times. And so for that reason, we're very fortunate to be able to go and receive Kalachakra empowerments. And some people, when they go, they just receive the empowerment, and that is great. And some people, when they go, they receive the empowerment. And after receiving the empowerment, then they go and do the Kalachakra practice. And if you do that, that is really extremely fortunate. That is a wonderful, great fortune to be able to do that. But what is the basic view of it? What is the basic view we need? It is the middle way Shentong view that we have to know. And then from knowing that, on that basis, we can then do the practice, we can receive the empowerments, and we can do the practice of Kalachakra. So that is very important. So that is why right now, it is very fortunate that we, among all of the great treatises that teach the Shentong view, we have this opportunity to listen to and to study this mountain Dharma, the ocean of certainty by Dolpopa Gyaltsen. And not only that, not only do we have the fortune to study, but it has already been translated into English, and some people are also planning to translate the translation into English.
Tene tanda kasinge kapso tajerdo tene deorhi binimbo yubige junsin long gone drupatela kasinge nomdo long drupala ta sachi namba chuji gone kasin hubarela ta teringe kapsula huya dela tene kap la tene deorhi binimbo sumbate tene trondan re sam tene nguni ngire mahimba trondan re suma tende yorela tene te trondan mahimbe junsen tembare ta terin sachi te la trondan mahimbe junsen tembatela tene trondan mari trondan re sambati pa yoga tene somne tene tige dangwa tembatela sachi juji yor.
So yesterday we covered the sections that teach that use scripture to prove, and scripture and quotation to prove that Buddha nature is present within all people. And so that was the section called "Proving that there is Buddha nature through the utterly pure scriptures," and that had 14 different sections in it. And so what we have come to today is, at this point, we have come to these sections that teach that Buddha nature is not the expedient meaning. There are some people who say that the teachings on Buddha nature are the expedient teachings. That means teachings that are not entirely true, but that are given in order to lead you to the real truth. So some people say that this is the expedient teachings, that it's not really the definitive or the true meaning of the teachings. And so they say that it is expedient teachings. And so, but that's not how it is. And so, so here there are teachings that, so here we have a set of teachings that say it's not the expedient teachings. You should just throw away any idea of it being the expedient teachings. And so here there are 11 sections that give advice on that.
Tene ta te na ne tangpo ta julame gomba tondare sunga tende yore la tene te tongde mare sunga re la tene te ya cerdo tenju chimbo julama senkente kande chini chunga re se na tene jalsa chambangembo sunga re jalsa chambangembo te kawa yo re se na ta tanda ngaranzo zombilen yo mare la kon tata ta ngaranzo sundu te la gadin lai yo re tene gadin lai yo ba te ten kon gi sumbu ge tenju te kandi si tarwa re se na tene loben tumi ge ti ge tene jatsa chambang bon jarne tarwa re.
The first of these sections is giving the teachings from the Ju Lama. There are some people who say that the Ju Lama says teachings in the Ju Lama, sorry, the wrong language. The teachings in the Supreme Continuum are the expedient teachings, and this is saying that they are not expedient teachings. And so, how is it that this so-called Supreme Continuum happened? How is it that it came to be? Well, this is taught by the great Bodhisattva Maitreya. And so where does the Maitreya dwell? Maitreya does not dwell in this world. Rather, he lives in the Tushita heaven, the divine realm, the divine joyous realm called Tushita. And it is there that he taught this, and he taught this supreme continuum. Well, then how is it that it spread in this world? It spread in the world because a Sangha was able to go there and meet him and receive this teaching from him.
Tene ta teyang ta jerdo tanda loben tomige tene tanda tipa chimbuge ta lapa hiraje lapa zortemba ngambe dene denzo tarihin gepar pelwige cherdo tene jatsa shambangambo drugugendo gongne tene konge druparela tene drupe kapso kon lo mambo la drupne tene shambangambo madrup tene kon tu jo tene ta popa hyom ta shambangambo drup tu mare somne chilo la pepe kapso tene mechi ki riti ko de yo tene riti ko ati chirang kari che gre se tela indi riti ngarang kangpa tela nima drip yo tene te pa ko go gre riti mepa che na ngarang kangpa la nima ya ba kya gre se la tu mendi te mepa la zendu ndaga sa ji se nge jasa shambang gambo dropa la tanda zendu ti ndang mendo tanda yang char tu zendu shi go gndo gongne ya zendu je ne lo mangbo la jang ya te jang na ya lo mangbo la drup na yo madru tene madru tu tene yang char to popa hyomne ta chambang gambo ngune drup tu mare somne chilo la pepe kapsala mechi gi cha chimbu je dar de yo te 가르치기 인시 저 첨부도 다르네 가르치기 인시 인데 저한테 bomborete 단데 다르나트니 타보시네 갑소 그래 되네 갑티 그쯤 그래서 아다 된데 된다면 반디 깔리 좀 다네 전준데 가서 지시도 네 자서 상방금 보도 발라 전준 마두 전준 르시 somni 야 로망보라도 되네 로주니를 들어봐지 다 파추 담비 로주니를 들어봐지네 되네 콩베 세네 다 자네 문엔 로사 말에 somni 되네 칠로라 페페 갑슬라 되네 콩게 지두 체지요 체디 코메를 마트모 리네 되네 뭐자 되네 이나요 그 해당 첨부지네 그 나르지네 되네 도미게 된데 총용이요 되네 로벤 도미 베 니지 첨부지네 다 뭐디 장마치고 그래 뭐디 라피 냠니 장마치는 뭐디 현도 그래 다가시 요가는 체디 현도 그래 다 가르치고 그래 되네 다 콩게 꾸준히 하디 지지네 디다인도 뭐디 옆에서도 되네 지게 뭐디 지게 야라네 지게 야랜도 될 되네 지에도 살도 좀 지에도 살도 운드들라 홈람송 되네 단다 자서 장방금 보더니 야지지 자서 장방금 본게 돼요.
So Asanga primarily taught the Mahayana, and when he taught the Mahayana, in order to spread the teachings of the superior training in wisdom, he wanted to spread the teachings of the Mahayana Abhidharma. And in order to spread this, he decided he needed to practice and accomplish the practice of Maitreya. And so he went to do this practice, and then when he went to practice, he spent a lot of years practicing. And as he practiced and practiced, he didn't come to the point where he was able to realize the meaning and meet Maitreya. And he got really depressed and discouraged by this, and thought to himself, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to accomplish this practice of Maitreya, so I'm going to leave. And so he went out. And when he went outside, he saw this guy outside who was digging away at a mountain. And I said, why is this guy digging at this mountain? And he said to this, what are you digging at the mountain for? And the guy said to him, well, this mountain here, it's like it's blocking the sun from coming into my house, so I thought I'd sort of dig away at it and get rid of the mountain here. So I'm just digging to get rid of this mountain. And then Asanga thought to himself, wow, if this guy has got so much diligence about doing something so completely pointless, I must not have any diligence at all towards the Dharma if he's got this diligence for pointless things, and so I better go back into retreat. So he went back into retreat, and he was even more diligent, and he again sat there and he practiced for a long time. And he practiced for many years. He was very diligent about it, but still no sign of success, and he was not able to accomplish the practice of Maitreya. And so once again, he got really depressed and discouraged, and he thought, I'm never going to be able to do this. I can't do it. I'm going to leave. And so he went outside again, and when he went outside, he saw this other guy there who had this big piece of iron, and this guy was rubbing the iron. I said, why are you rubbing this iron? What are you doing here? And he said, this iron's too big. What I really need is a needle in order to sew my clothes. So if I rub it enough, eventually I'll have a needle. And then Asanga thought to himself, oh man, this guy is really just wasting his time doing pointless things, but look how diligent he is about it. I'm not at all diligent about my Dharma practice. I'd better go back into retreat. And so he went back into retreat. And when he went back into retreat, again, he was very diligent, and he sat for another long time, a lot of years sitting there. And altogether, he spent 12 years sitting in retreat. And even after 12 years, he still was not able to accomplish the practice. He was not able to really finish the practice of Maitreya. And then once again, he got really discouraged and really upset about this, and he thought, I'm never going to do it. And so he left the retreat again. And then when he left the retreat, he went outside, and he saw a dog there on the ground. And the dog there had this really big wound in its side. And in that wound, there are all these maggots in the room. And this is a really scary-looking dog, and this dog was being really frightening towards him, sort of lunging towards him. And he thought, oh, man. And he had all this compassion for the dog, because look how much it was suffering. And so with all the compassion, he thought, I've really got to help this dog, and the only way I can help this dog is if I can clean the maggots off of its wound. But if I pick them off with my fingers, I'll crush and kill the maggots, and that wouldn't be any good either. And so what he decided to do is he took his knife and he cut a piece of his flesh off, and he set that out to put the maggots on, and then he bent down to lick the maggots off with his tongue. And as he bent down and he closed his eyes, he bent down and his tongue touched the ground. It didn't touch the dog. It touched the ground. And so then he looked up, and when he got up, there was the protector Maitreya.
Tene sambangambo tena jaliyong kapsala tene tatin jaliyong du papa tuji chong tangara pe tuji chung chung re nga pe lo mambo tagasa chila kali japare sene solwa tab tene tene sambangambo tu sona ngara tuji chung mare chera driba dribni jalge yo mare la tene tari niji chimbu ji ne tene ti niji chimbu topji tene tandang us njal toba chungwa re tene ti demban do mandu ta cherang nga thakpala kurni sona hakko re se tene thomi ge jasa chambang ge thakpala kurni pendo suchi ge thong ge yo mare la tene tal amagemo je ge 드바사바 제긴 통네 체랑 제 코르네 가리리 스트기 요라라 드네 드바사브네 드네 체 데지 마리 데프게 넘바른 통 드네 니지지 드네 무슨 잘 다든 딘데 중어레 드네 공게 로망보 라 드바잡네 드바사 드네 체 넘바른 통 드네 니지지네 잔사 장방게 무슨 잘 ne tini gadin lai yul pe gadin lai yul ne tini konge tambi chu mangbo sen ne ta di non ne mixal to tini jambi chu de nga jambi chu de nga na ne mixal to tini ngirenge tini ndodi tamchi je gumba traversi thank you tela thank you chimbo lama te ta te nam teni meyola dendrin hyuni tene jambi chude nga de jambi line to tarware.
And so when he saw Maitreya, what he said to him is, he said, "Oh, you have very little compassion. I have spent all these years practicing and undergoing difficulties for this." And so that is how he supplicated Maitreya. And Maitreya said to him, I'm not... Maitreya said to him, I don't have very little compassion. It's because you have been so obscured that you haven't seen me. And it's only when you really developed great compassion that you were able to see me. And it is out of the power of your great compassion that you were able to see me. And so if you don't believe me, let's see whether it's true or not. And so put me on your shoulder and let's go into town. And so they went into town, and no one could see anything on Asanga's shoulder. No one could see anything except for, finally, they met one old woman who, because she was a little bit less obscured than the rest, saw him carrying this old dog on his shoulders. And so it was really because he was obscured that he was not able to see him. So once he developed the great compassion, he was able to see him and meet him. And so he did spend all these years practicing, but because of his obscurations, he was not able to see him until finally he purified enough that he was able to see him in the form of a dog. And then through developing the great compassion, he was able to actually meet him. And then after meeting him, he went with him to the joyous heaven, the Tushita heaven. And after going to the joyous heaven, he was able to receive many Dharma teachings from him. And among all of the Dharma teachings from him, the primary ones that he received are what we call the 5 Dharmas of Maitreya. And of these 5 Dharma teachings of Maitreya, the most important one is the teaching, the Dharma that comments on the teachings of these sutras of the true meaning, the sutras of the definitive meaning, and that is the Supreme Continuum. And so, after he received these teachings, he brought them down to the world, to this world realm, and that is how the 5 Dharmas of Maitreya spread in this world.
Tene ta tela, tene tenchu chimbo jilame nangdo, ta tanda zo dehi nimbo ten yorela. Tene dige nyuk tena la, tene dehi nimbo tenbe gupa namba nga song yorela. Tene gupa namba nga songwa tela, kepa chimbo kahige, dehi nimbo songwa ten uni, dehi nimbo senke ten uni senke tangji jisanji jela yo mare. Tene ona tenchu chimbo jilame nangdo songwa te kari rese na, tene mena ya, durja senche na zhongwe cheto, tene dehi nimbo mepala yepar sumbare. Te yinpe junsen te jilama rang nang la, jen nga tene yepa te salwe ke cheto, dehi nimbo songwa re se ne song yo re song. Tene kepa chimbo kakikta tene song yo re la. Jen nga te kandire se na, dehi nimbo yepar he na, dehi nimbo mepar he na, tene sem hyomne nga sanji ke kompon toga mare, nga sanji ke kompon drup toga mare, sambate pangbe ke chirtula. Sanji ke kompon drup toga re devar hibi nimbo yo re, sem hyomba pongbe ke chirta. Jai! Tene yang kahi ke senji memba yenda la, nga yapu ye, konzo tabjari, konzo yapu mare, sonne nyechu shigere la. Tene nyechu sheju yo mare, nyechu sheju meba te karire se na, senji tongchi la devar hibi nimbo yo pa chen na, tene senji yenda la nyechu sheju yo mare, te nyechu meji pe chetu la, devar hibi nimbo yo pa, dehi nimbo yo me na ya nyechu meji pe chetu la, devar hibi nimbo yo re, sumare, tati tenzi ni.
Now, what the Supreme Continuum teaches is that there is Buddha nature that is that there's Buddha nature that is present within all sentient beings. And then towards the end of this, it also teaches the 5 reasons, or the five necessities, is to say it literally, the 5 purposes for teaching the presence of Buddha nature. Now, some great scholars later on said that, well, the Buddha nature is not something that really is not really present in all sentient beings. It's not really there, and the Supreme Continuum teaches it, but teaches that that even though it isn't really there, it teaches that it is there in order to guide people there. And so that is why it is called the guiding meaning or the expedient meaning. And so by saying that even though there isn't Buddha nature, by teaching that it's there, it does this in order to get rid of 5 potential problems that can happen. And so that is why the Supreme Continuum teaches that there is Buddha nature, in order to get rid of these problems. So there isn't Buddha nature, but we teach it anyways in order to prevent 5 problems from happening. And so that is what some scholars say. So what are these 5 different problems that can arise? The first of the 5 different problems, or the 5 different faults, is that if there isn't any Buddha nature, then people will get really discouraged. They'll think, I can't attain Buddhahood. There's no way I can become a Buddha myself. I can't practice and accomplish Buddhahood myself. And so people think that because they don't have Buddha nature, they can't do this. And so in order that people do not get discouraged like this, even though there isn't Buddha nature, they say, it teaches that there is Buddha nature in order to get rid of this fault of being discouraged. The second fault is that some people say that other people are lower than them. They think to themselves, oh, I'm great. And those other people, they're just... They're second rate. They're really they're nothing at all. And so in this way, they really denigrate and deprecate other sentient beings. But really, there's actually no reason to deprecate other sentient beings in that way. There's nothing to be deprecated about. The reason is because all sentient beings, present within all sentient beings, is this Buddha nature, and because of that, there's nothing to be deprecated there. And so for that reason, in order to get rid of this fault of deprecating other sentient beings, then it's taught that there is Buddha nature.
Tene sumbate ta kandere sena tene yang tapa mahimpan singre yapo mare dekhi nimbo yapo mare samne zamba te dopu ki chedla tene dekhi nimbo tembare tene yong ta yang hiba te yang tapa manzimbe maziba ge yong tapa chuela kurwa tapne ta te dekhi nimbo yo mare sene tene kurwa tapre la te dopu ki chedla dekhi nimbo sumare tene ngaba te tene ngarang la chagin chimbo rani la chagin chimbo jegre te dopa te ke ngabo te pangbe ke chedla dehi nimbo mena ya dehi nimbo ye par temba re mato dehi nimbo ye ne temba mare se tan kepa kahi ki sungi yo la tin kepa kahi ki sumba te la le mambo yo re ta te kandna ya ti len de yo re ta te teacher na tene te yang ta tanda thangden re singin te yang ta pa mari tene ngune re tene som yo re ta te
ne sumbadan shiba ni ki keber guys
te yang ta pa main par zamba te yang ta pa main pa yang ta pa mari sin tambe chul kurwa ta pa
The third, what is the third of the faults that might arise? The third fault is that someone might hold the incorrect to be correct. And so they might think that there is no Buddha nature and then hold on to that as being correct. And in order to refute that, in order to block that fault, it's taught that there is Buddha nature. The fourth one is to hold that what is correct is not correct. And so this is people who say that the Dharma is no good, there is no Buddha nature. And so in order to block that fault, to stop that fault, then this fault of denigrating the Dharma in this way, then it is taught that there is Buddha nature. And the fifth fault is that sometimes people have a lot of attachment and clinging to themselves. And so in order to to counteract this attachment to themselves, it's taught that there is Buddha nature. And so these scholars are saying that even though there is no Buddha nature, it's taught that there is Buddha nature in order to clear up these 5 different problems that arise. And so that is what a lot of people, a lot of different scholars can say. Now, there are many different responses that can be given to this, and here there is a particular response that is given. But basically what it's saying is that this is not the expedient meaning. It's not just a guiding meaning. This is not it is actually how it is.
Tene ta tela tetardo ta de tenju chimboji lamane sumbate tangdama impartempa cheitang ta tejendo nibate ndo longkarhepa ne sumba re la tene teya chetang ke tanda tene ngaranso ta namba sanji pege pukjol sandabote kanderese nan doda tenju namba 2 yore la tene ta te na ne tanda ngaranso songo doje tipi chue tarwege ta jula zo kari nangi yore se na tene ndo le tenju kalchewa nangi yore la tene ndo le tenju kalchewa nangwa te che se na mau banda bure kari re se na ndo di sanji jamding de chung usumbare tenju den kepa tang tuto namji sardu zambeke tenju re la tene te kalchewa nangwa te mau banda bo ta kashi gakpa yang jabu yore re te yinaya tene te kalchewa re te ndo inone sumba te tene ndo te silbur sumba re kongso susu ngola tene yolje la pene yang tendo jay sam yang sasa yenda jay la kongso jay ngola chu jay sam tene te soso re jachembo tende re yore la tene tenju ga nando ndo tamchi ga tan te tsor du ne tene kanga tsik nyunyu ten jebo tende sine du ne samba yimpe chirna tene tenju la lobjong siya na tene ndo ye tan te to toba tende yungi yore la junsi ti chirna ndo le tenju kalchewa nangi yore re te yina ya tenju tenju ga tenda te kani tengi yore sina tenju tenju ten kepa tenju ga rang muba tan tamba sardu zongi yore ndo ye gomba tan tamba sardu zongi yore la tene kapndar ta tanda ndo de longkarki ba te sanji jom tende chi sumba ndo re tene ndo ye nando ta dine tene dehi nipo tenpa te tongtenka namba la song yore tene tangpo ndo longkarki pe nando song na tene tangpo senchen tangche la do me ba te ta te je so senchen tangche la dewarki bi nimbo ye par ten ba te la tene chanchu senpa chenpo che ge tri ne tangpo cherang ge do me par song re tene ta tanda te dewarki bi nimbo ye par song re do ye par song ra bo che to tene tene ngal drog mare be shudu te la tene ta tangpo do me par song te ngone re la tene dewarki bi nimbo do dong sumba te mutipa no jisu sung che to sung yin sung ki je yore teacher na tene do longkarki be no ne dewarki bi nimbo te tene tongdan sung yore la tene te yo mare sine gapa nang yore la tene te ya ngone ge tongdan mare tene do longkarki be no do yen do ga nang do tene dewarki bi nimbo sarwar sung yore sine sung re.
So that is the teaching on how the Supreme Continuum is not the expedient meaning, it is the definitive meaning. Then second, there is a section that talks about how the gone to, or the well, actually you could probably say travels to Lanka might be even better. Travels to Lanka sutra is not the travels to Lanka. Here, as Sarah's reminding, it's called the descent to Lanka in this translation, but travels to Lanka might be better. Now let me get back where I am. Okay, so when we talk about where do the teachings that we study come from, what the real place that they all come down to is the tantras and the sutras that the Buddha taught. And in particular, when we talk in a country where the secret mantra of Vajrayana has spread, then what is it that we consider to be most important? Well, actually, we consider that the treatises composed by the other later masters are more important than the sutras. And if you think about this, this might seem like it's really disrespectful. And it seems like it's disrespectful because the sutras are what the Buddha really said, and so and the treatises are things that were later written by all these scholars and people, and so that seems like it's really disrespectful, and that actually the sutras should be really important. However, the sutras, when you look at the sutras, they were taught in many different pieces and sections all over the place. And so the Buddha would go to one place and he'd meet one individual and say something that was in accord with that individual's makeup or constitution. And then he'd go to another place and meet another individual and say another thing to that individual. And so there are all these vast teachings that were given all over the place. And so what the treatises do is they take all these vast teachings from the sutras, and they take them and they bring them all together. And so they take all these vast words and they can combine them and condense them. And so for that reason, when we study the sutras, we are able to come to know what the meaning of both the sutras and the tantras are. And so that is why we consider the tantras to be so important. Well, but what is the meaning that we realize, that we come to know from the tantras? The meaning is not something that all these scholars and great meditators made up out of their own wishes. What they did is they took the teachings from the sutras, and so they put them together. And so that is why the tantras are so important. Now, here in this section, we're talking about the Travels to Lanka Sutra. This sutra is a sutra that was taught by the Buddha. And in this sutra, it is taught that Buddha nature is the expedient meaning. And what this sutra teaches, what the Travels to Lanka Sutra teaches, is that first it teaches that there is no self. And then after that, it teaches that there is Buddha nature. And that there is Buddha nature and there is that self that is Buddha nature. And then after this, one great bodhisattva gets up and he asks the Lord Buddha, he says, first you taught that everything has no self, and then you taught that there is Buddha nature, that there is a self. Are these two not contradictory? And the Buddha replied that the teaching on selflessness is the real teaching, and the teaching that there is Buddha nature and that there is a self, that is in order to attract, in order to take care of and meet the needs of the non-Buddhists that is given. And so in this way, in the sutra called the Travels to Lanka, it is said that the teachings on Buddha nature are the expedient or guiding meaning. But that is actually not the ultimate meaning. It is not really the expedient meaning, because actually this sutra teaches that there is Buddha nature very clearly.
Tene ta te jendo sumba te ta jude chimbo namta te na ne mixal tu tene ta jambal senji gna ne doji leji doji da tane da doji da ya pasong yo re la te kan doji da te kan sung yo re se na dewar ki bin bola sung yo re la tene te ya ta ngaran so ge nzen bege da dang. Tene senjin tamji je sen la ye pe rikam dewar ki be nimbo ni le chepar chimbo yore. Te da ngman te mare te ni chepar kari yore se na da te ngaran chu ge som ta na kap ka la ngaran chu ge lu ti da yin som ge yore. Kap ka la ngaran chu ge sem te da yin som ge yore. Ti lu ti da yin bar som be ka so la lu ti ngu po tene do chi ge nam ba la da yin som ba. Sem te la da yin som be ka sa la sem te ngu po do chi ge da ji yin som. Think of Kala Lucen Nikala Doy, some Pantago. That in the Chegi or La, did Cantaria, Tinubu, Dendrup chicken or La, Zingi or La. They were keeping him over the Teta Mare, Rongi Tomba, Tai Yetantal was Yepa Maimpa, Mepa Maimpa, Nika Maimpa, and Tai Yetan, Tomba Nita Yermepachi Yepa in Pichana, they need Doji Legi teacher na. Tini doji leki doji do sungare lati devar ki bini boye person to kitan to sungare doji leki doji do singite tanda demanga chunganga kana doji leki doji do chipusanti doji do
oh yeah. So I'm looking for the quotation here. Oh, dinner. Oh, okay, now I see it. Yeah. I was looking in the wrong section. Okay. Now here, the third section here gives teachings from the Tantras that this is not the expedient meaning. So the teachings from the Tantras, primarily it gives a teaching from the reciting the names of Manjushri, the Manjushri Namasamgiti. And so the teaching is one that reads, born from the Vajra self. And so what is this Vajra self? What is a Vajra self? Well, that is Buddha nature. This is taught to be Buddha nature. Now, sometimes we cling to a self. And so what is the self that we cling to? What is the difference between the self that we cling to and Buddha nature? Well, there is a difference between the two. And the difference is that what we usually cling to being a self is usually when we cling to self, we either cling to our body as being me, or we cling to our mind as being me. And so when we think to ourselves, oh, the body is me, when we cling to the body as being me, then at that time we think that the body is some sort of a real thing, something that's put together, a real thing. Or then sometimes we think that our mind is me, and when we think that our mind is me, then we think of the mind as being some sort of thing, that's some sort of composite thing or a formation that is put together. But and so in that ways we can, and sometimes we also cling to both our body and our mind together as being a me. But actually, when we look at, so we cling to it as if it were something that were truly existent. But the Buddha nature is not like that. The Buddha nature is naturally empty. The Buddha nature is naturally empty of the four extremes. It is not existent. It is not non-existent. It is not both existent and non-existent. And it is not neither existent nor non-existent. And so in this way, it is free of these four different extremes, and it is inseparable from emptiness.
Tene ta tejendo sachi yebate ta tangbo do ye persungata. Tene do me persungata. Tene tiji so dewarki binimbo ye persungate ni ngalwandro mare besena te ngalwandro mare sine tempa cheita sachi ngabate tene sonho ganane dewa chimbo ahang dada dembege tene ta dog nambala tempa teya dewarki binimbola kogi ore sonata tene sachi tupate tene ta te top da sinkete tene chuji yin ta hiraji paru tsamba ta Rangtong ndo yom hiraji paru tsamba nando tene tongni kitan tong yerme pala songyo res.
The fourth of these sections says that, excuse me, it says that first we think that there is a self, and then it's taught that there is no self. And then it's taught that there is Buddha nature. And so are these contradictory? And this section basically teaches that they are not. The fifth section teaches how in the secret mantra, sometimes we say that there is great bliss, and this great bliss is what we call aham. And so that aham is takes the aspect of a self. But here, this is saying that should be understood to be Buddha nature. The sixth section teaches that sometimes we talk about the pure self. Sometimes we talk about the Dharma expanse or Dharma dhatu. And sometimes you talk about the prajnaparamita. And so this is teachings. This is a teaching from the prajnaparamita sutras that primarily teach the self-emptiness, the Great Mother. And so in it here it says that the Great Mother, the prajnaparamita, teaches that these are all indivisible from emptiness.
Tene ta tejendo dunba te ta ngune deorhi binimbo de senchi tamchi senchi jela yu re so ta jepa te ta kap la kepa khahi ge deorhi binimbo yo re de na ya saben ge namba ta baje ngune mai ba saben ge namba ta baje yo re so te 대야 대다 사벤타부 마인바 우니 드네 센지 탐지 센지jel라 요레 소한테 드네 고바티 티 요여바티 옌티 차창와제 드네 다 단다 센지 탐지 센지jel라 요레 소한테.
So the seventh teaching teaches that the Buddha nature is actually present within all sentient beings. And then the eighth section teaches that what some scholars say is that there is Buddha nature within all sentient beings, but this Buddha nature is just like a seed. It's not actually there. It's not actual. And what this section teaches is that it is not just a seed. It actually is present within all sentient beings. The ninth section teaches that this Buddha nature that is there has all of the qualities. And so all of these qualities are present within all sentient beings.
Tene ta tejendo juba te ta wona deorhi binimbo de senji tamji senji jela yona te montong junsen karere tene sanji jamden de la kanri juba ta bajela te ngawochi ndo inane tene pisong yoarela ngawochi ndo inane sona perna meje meite dripne tene zula ta ka so la thong mare te empty yapu tige tene make drip ke papa ti so hyona tene tangbo de la tene kasi thong ko te sin zugun tin te sin thong ko tene te yangzo pa hyona tene chachang thong ko se gerela pe te yendo tene ngaran so nyemo baton tene lobru chitma te salna tene chachang thong gre tene so.
The 10th section talks about how, well, if we actually do have Buddha nature, why is it that we do not see it? And so someone asked the Buddha about this, and he gave the answer, and the answer is given in the Sutra of the Great Drum. And what it says in this sutra is it gives an example. For example, if you have someone whose eyes are cloudy, like they have cataracts or something, their eyes are really cloudy, then if they look out at a form, they can't see it. But then if they go to the doctor, and then the doctor will cut away a little bit of the skin that clouds their eyes, and there's just a little bit of skin that they cut away, and they look, they see a little bit of form, they can slightly see the form. But then if the doctor will take away all of the cloudiness from their eyes, then they'll be able to see everything, everything at all. And so in the same way, So I'm thinking about the LASIK correction surgery that we get all the time. That's right. You hear about the commercials on the radio. Do they still have those commercials? I'm sorry, let me get back to what Rinpoche said. And so, in the same way as that example, we ordinary sentient beings are really obscured by all of the afflictive emotions, and we're obscured by all of the adventitious stains. And if we are able to remove them, if we're able to dispel all of those stains, then we will be able to see the Buddha nature in its entirety.
Tene ta teji so chuchi pate ta tenju ta doate ta te tanda dehi nimbo tangden sumbate yang taba main bitsolte tempere.
And then the 11th section teaches that it is sort of like a conclusion that wraps it all up and wraps up this entire section that says that and by saying that the Buddha nature is not just the expedient meaning.
Tene ta terin tesam shona tesi trawana kinyo na trawana roma.
And so that's enough for today. And if there's anyone who would like to ask a question, let's please have some questions. I think that there's a microphone up towards the front. Please come to the microphone and make a line. It's the easiest.
Right here. Hello, Rinpoche. Earlier you taught that it's only the bodhisattvas and the Buddhas who see the pure forms, the yidams. But when we're learning Tugyo, it's said that the measure of our practice of Treksha is if the yidams appear directly to us in Tugyo. Well, how do we make sense of that? Because it seems like we're taught that kind of practice as ordinary people. So how do we make sense of those instructions and what appears to us?
Rinpoche gi dila chitande ane chanchu sempa ta sanje mato de daba gi nawo de so ane ngusu tongyo yo mare. Yina yang dine tekche dan tuga gi kapsula ya dine tik na gansungare sena dila adine rangi nyamning gi tse dila de so yidam gi khwa de so ngusu tongwe na mina de daba sungyore. Dine yina de ngaso dine mi social kyo gi nyamnen yores ne de kande gogores.
De ta tanda zo ta teche tang tegal senke tenzo nyulam riba. Nyulam yin because la tangbo susu ji o yin ya tene lam yong ta pa gam. Lam yong ta pa gam ne ta shaja chimbo ta zopa chimbo tenzo gam na sechi luji ki sunju dojin chung kompon to pa sege yo re la. Tene teacher na yiram je lan jal na tene sato chungju sembala churwa riba.
The teachings on Trecha and Tugala are the fast path, and so when we, because they're the fast path, when we start practicing them, we are ordinary individuals. But because of practicing the right path and meditating upon the right path in the right way, it is said that we are able to attain the unified state of a Vajra holder in one lifetime in one body. And so in that way, when we actually see the deities, then we've attained the bodhisattva levels, haven't we?
Oh. I hope so. Does the same thing go for the Chulen practice? Chulen.
Chulen.
The fasting practice. Chulen, eating space.
Chulen gi yamnande dekarande be. Chulen.
Chilling
Do you see deities doing Chulen practice?
Yes.
Yeah, chirang jalsung.
You've seen them?
Yes.
Oh.
They came.
Oh, that's good, isn't it? So that's probably pretty good. Sometimes people see various things, so if you've actually seen them, that's really good.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche. May I ask one more question?
Yes.
Okay. It's said that... What?
You should ask the people behind you.
I'm sorry. Tuchite Rinpoche. Please.
Rinpoche, thank you for the teachings. You say that the Buddha nature in essence is away from the four extremes, it's empty. And that sounds like, also that's the way that relative phenomena are described. So is the Buddha nature a relative phenomenon? And also when it's described that way, why, if it's described as empty, why is that not the same thing as it being an expedient teaching?
Dela Rinpoche ki Teroshe Nyingma de Tashidan Dao Sumare. Dingo Tashidan Dao Sumare. Tine dera boina kunzop ki chu de dekrana shingi Tashidan Dao yore sumdo. Tine dena Teroshe Nyingma de ani kunzop dao yurgianas. Yang ani de Teroshe Nyingma de tompa yena. De an chiprawo goodness de jandun da chagi marbe
kunzup te candidate na kunzup te tanda ngaran so non capsula tini ta yedong talwata ngal dep na bal tong yo ngaran so ngal dep na bal tong yo re ta yedong majalwa ta yepa uni nelu go on de sina toni re de yina ngaran so tong ka so toni mai ba jin tong de yo la tini ti nelu go ngune ta yedong trawa re besina re ti yina ngaran so tong so go on de sina ta yedong trawa tong yo mare tini ngune toni dang gal de ba jin tong yo teacher na 단단 디게 똥바티 군줍고 똥바티 테네 군줍 텐줍 마줍 똥니 지레라 데어히비 힘보티 단다 센지 네루레 센지 네루 인디텔 티 똥바당 갈게요 말이 페르나 ngaransu 셈테 카바도 테나 셈테 마줍 똥니레 똥니 레데 이나야 디 살차티 ngaransu 셈테 no tip singon do yo mare sarchati yorela teacher na devar hi bi himboti saltung song tu pasi devar hi bi himbu chemba te da tomba ni den galge yo mare tanda ngaransu tong kunzu te toni dang te gal de yo.
When we see the relative appearances, they don't appear to us. It seems like, although in their nature they are free of the four extremes, that's not how they appear to us. They appear to us to be exclusive. They appear to us in a way that's exclusive of us. So they appear as if they are not free of these four extremes. We think that there's something that is there. We think that they actually are there. But in their nature, in the way they actually are, they're empty. But we do not actually see the nature. So we're not seeing the nature as they are. And so the way they are is actually free of these four extremes, but that is not what appears to us. What appears to us seems to be exclusive of that and not like that. And so we, for that reason, that is why they're said to be empty. That is the emptiness here is said that in terms of the relative phenomena, they are not established as anything, they are empty. That is why they're said to be that way. But they do not appear to us that way. Now, Buddha nature is different. Buddha nature is the nature of our mind. And it is not in any way exclusive or contradictory of emptiness. When we look at our mind to see where is the essence of the mind, it can't be proven to be anything. It is emptiness. But at the same time, there is that aspect of clarity, that clear wisdom aspect that is there. And that is Normally, that is, we don't see it because it's hidden by dark shadows. But when we look and we see it, then we see that it is this union of the clarity and emptiness. And so that union of clarity and emptiness is the Buddha nature, and it is not in any way exclusive of emptiness in any ways. And so in that way, it is not necessarily exclusive of it, of the relative emptiness in any way.
Okay. Thank you, Rinpoche.
Rinpoche, this is just for clarification. Is it correct what you were saying? In the Supreme Continuum, the view of Buddha nature is that it's an expedient teaching, but the Shentong view is that it is not an expedient teaching. Did I understand that correctly?
The Julama-gi Tempe-gi de Rishipi Nibo de Dandu de Sumba de Deyina Stan Shentong-gi Kapsu de Dandu Mayimper Sumba ina State Abogona Digina Julama-gi Kapsu de Rishipi Nibo de Dandu Yimper Sumbare Shentong-gi Kapsu de Dandu Mayimper Sumbare de Abogona Digina
Tite Sintrigmando. Julamani Sumba te Kepa Kashi, Tene. Johnson la tene sumba cherna tangre sungi yoare tina tingune mare tene dewarki bin himbo mena tene sem hyungreba dewarki bin himbo yon yopati la tene sem hyungu mare sem hyumbati Johnson tambote mare la sem hyumbati Johnson tambote ba yimbitena tene dewarki bin himbo ngus yopa la tene sumare mato dewarki bin himbo mena tene ranking sem hyungreba tene senti memba la nyepa dewarki bin himbo mena tele nyechu segreba tene senti la nyes rungu mare karere sena nyes maro junse tene tanda dewarki bin himbo yore ngune tene sungare la teta bu cherna tene dilamani sumbati junse gupa sungare mato di tonda imbe chete sungare
That's not really how it should be understood. In the Supreme Continuum, there are some scholars who say that because of the 5 different faults that the Buddha nature is said to be the expedient meaning. However, that is not really the case. That is not how it is. The Buddha nature really is present. That is not the expedient meaning. For example, there are the 5 reasons. And the first of the 5 reasons is that you might get discouraged. And so if there were no Buddha nature, then you would get discouraged and would get depressed about it. There wouldn't be anything you could do. But because it is present, because we do have Buddha nature, there's no reason to be discouraged. And so this is the first fault and the first reason that it is taught. And so here this is because there actually is Buddha nature that it is taught. And because there is Buddha nature, there is no need to be discouraged in any way. The second fault is that we might denigrate or speak badly of other sentient beings. And if there were no Buddha nature, then there might be a reason to talk badly about other sentient beings. But because there is Buddha nature, there's nothing bad to say about other sentient beings. They have the sentient beings. And so it's because the Buddha nature is present that this is taught. And so these are how these work, these 5 reasons. It is for the reason that the Buddha nature is there, that in the Supreme Continuum, these are taught to be reasons for teaching the Buddha nature. They are not saying that it is the expedient meaning. The reason this came up is because I thought that I would just explain the refutation, or explain the dispute, and then you could look up the answer in the book yourselves. And so that's why I thought.
Thank you.
Good morning, Rinpoche. It's good to see you and good to be here. My question, I have two, one really short. The first one is regarding the second point, the Lankavatara Sutra. You stated that the Buddha told the Bodhisattva that there was no Buddha nature, but the sutra itself says that there is. So was what the Buddha told this Bodhisattva expedient in itself for this particular Bodhisattva situation? Or basically, how does the Lankavatara Sutra say that there actually is Buddha nature?
The nipa de saji nipa de ani longer shepe do la de zobe sanje chomden de gi janju semba ambo chi la and de shepe nipo yomare sondu ina and do quran la de shepe nipo yore sondu de sanje gi sumba sange gi janju semba de la sumba de janju semba de gi ngola sumba mato de ngune minus Dedabuyana, the longer ship dona and a data ship in Nibo, Yupor de Canditangaris.
Telaya, Tai Tratamputelayang, Gapatihu, Tini Lane de Martin Pareva, Naranga, Tini Tanda Twain Batelayan, Gapatihu, Lane de Martin Parella, Tiniti, Devkanalayapo, Zena, Tini Deorhi bin Ibu, Mutipi Dani, then Dragmare. Mutipi dangu polans in Giore, the Orhi bin Himbo Rang Tomba Imagi Chepala, the Orhi bin Himbo Tene Tanda Tene Parasuma Rete, Yinaya, Tingo Tomba Impicherna, Tini Chepariore, so on.
This is the same problem as for the first question. I thought that I would just explain the dispute and then let you all look it up in the book. And so here it's really the same situation as before. I explained the dispute but not the answer. But here what it says in the sutra is that the Buddha nature and the self that is taught by the non-Buddhists are not the same. Here, let me just say something. In the book, the non-Buddhists are translated as forders. So when you see the word forder in the book, that means non-Buddhists. Buddhists here, non-Buddhists propose that the self is something that is a thing, something that actually exists. But Buddha nature is something that is empty. And so when we say that there is Buddha nature, the essence of that Buddha nature is empty.
Thank you. My short question is much short and relating to the book. What is the actual term for the word Jeffrey Hoffman uses, nomenon?
De la noumenon or nomenon, however you pronounce it in English, that is the dharmata in Sanskrit, dharma nature, you could say also in English.
Tujeche.
Oh yes, the Trini, that's right, the dharmata.
Dharmata. Tujeche.
My question was somewhat answered by some of the former questions, but I'm still on these faults. And it says the fifth one, some people might have great attachment to themselves. And I'm wondering how the teaching of Buddha nature really helps somebody to let go of that attachment.
Deorhi bin Himbo de Yena Dala Chapa de Deorhi bin Himbo Ngorang Hingi Tomba Impichun Dala Chapa Doctor.
The reason is because the essence of the Buddha nature is naturally empty, and that's why it breaks our attachment to a self.
Good morning. Is it working? Yeah. Okay. Rinpoche said that in the Travels to Lanka Sutra, it said that the Buddha said that Buddha nature was an expedient meaning, and I wonder if there's also a sutra or sutras where the Buddha says that it's the definitive meaning.
de la langarship doka so de leadership nimbo de Trangden sumpa nan shingi dokashe na de leadership nimbo de ngedun yimber sumpa yorbe.
Yore tanda ta ngawo chi ndo da ten kim ndo da lasan labi samba ten ndo tati ndo parchiane tati tanda longarshi ndo ino ne trondan sumba te di tsaite ni yore mato manchi hyutini ta ngirem sungu yore wa.
There are many sutras that teach this. There is the Sutra of the Great Drum, the Sutra of the Great Cloud, the Sutra of the Pure Intention, and many other sutras. Most sutras teach that Buddha nature is the ultimate meaning. Here in the sutra, the Travels to Lanka Sutra, there are just a couple phrases that say that it is the expedient meaning, and most of it says that it is the ultimate meaning. Okay, so we'll leave it there for today, won't we? Sorry. Sibe